Inside the Arena is presented by Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel, Seattle's closest sportsbook.
Welcome to Inside the Arena, your source for everything off the ice, off the court, and outside the field of play. With your hosts, KOMO Sports Director Niko Tamurian and KOMO Senior Reporter Chris Daniels.
We're officially ready for AARP. 65 episodes.
It took me a half second. I'm like, I had a milestone birthday this year, so I was like, Chris, thank you. But yeah,
65 straight weeks of exclusive Inside the Arena content.
And this is what's so fun about this show is the idea that, we're checking in with all the teams. Doesn't matter if they're, having 70,000 people at their games or 2,500. We're checking into everything that really is the fabric of the Seattle sports community.
Off the ice, off the court, off the field of play, and what's going on in the boardrooms. And you have a conversation this week about one of those boardrooms.
Yeah, Mariners General Manager Justin Hollander. And boy, oh boy, did the Mariners have a big trade deadline this year.
Oh, yeah.
And full disclosure, this was about a week after the deadline, just to kind of give people the timeline there. But what I really like about this conversation is you'll all hear in a little while is Justin kind of takes me through the ins and outs of how trades are made, how many phone calls it takes to complete something like, say, the Geno Suarez trade, how many days, weeks, and months those things are in the work, the emotional side of it, because, you see these guys every day, then you have to go tell them, oh, I traded you, and some of those relationships are going back years and years. You may have drafted that player. So it's a really cool, insightful conversation, the inner workings of how a trade is made in Major League Baseball.
And rarely on this show do we go outside the arena and into a courtroom, but later on in the show, we're going to talk a little bit about the situation that made headlines here in the last week involving the Supersonic great Shawn Kemp. That'll be in the Supersonic Minute. I'll share with you something that came up in the courtroom that I think is pretty special, and I want to read for you. So that's coming up a little bit later in the show. But what we always like to do, Niko, what's good, what's bad in the world of sports, off the ice, off the court, off the field of play. Let me find the right button, everybody. There we go. Yes, four corners. Niko, what's good this week?
Well, it's figuring that we're doing the four corners. I got to stick with baseball, and I just love that the setup here in the final month for the Mariners from the standpoint that Cal Raleigh keeps making history. Think about it. You had 2 days in a row, Sunday and Monday earlier this week, where he made history. Broke the record, then became the first catcher to hit 50 home runs. And it's for a fan base that has suffered for a very long time, save for a few bright spots here and there. It's a much needed bright spot. Hopefully the first of a lot, with more to come later this month. But how can you not be, to borrow the Moneyball quote, how do you not be romantic about the Mariners right now? It's just so fun to watch them in playoff position, but especially Cal Raleigh. I have to laugh. I called him Clutch Cal Raleigh. Somebody replied on X and said, Cal's not clutch. I'm like, are you watching the same sport as me? Like, they don't come any more clutch than Cal Raleigh. Leads the majors in go-ahead home runs this year, of course, and in home runs in general. But how special is this season? However it ends up, no matter what, you can point to any number of things with Cal, the home run derby, these records he's setting, and just the feeling at the ballpark anytime he steps to the plate. You've got whatever the day of the week is, 20, 30, 40,000 people just waiting, holding their breath, wondering if they're going to see the next home run from Cal. And that is just such a special thing. And the Mariners, kudos to them, the front office, marketing, all that. They've really capitalized on that and really made sure people know just how special of an opportunity this is to watch.
He is objectively one of the 10 most recognizable players in the sport right now because of this year. Because of what happened with the home run derby. This has been the summer of Cal. Boy, it has been fun to watch. And I am really curious how the Mariners are going to milk this. I was kind of joking around. I put on X, hey, there's got to be now a part of the ballpark that's Cal's Corner or the Dump It Here Cafe. There were some great shots in these games from T-Mobile Park this last week. And the one thing I really wanted to see, and I put this out there, hoping somebody from the Mariners will listen, they need a camera on the 300 level on the right field line. So when you have that beautiful sunset, the pastels and the purples, you have a shot of the home runs flying over the left field fence and the city skyline and the sunset. That would be, I think, a nice touch for next year, presuming that Cal Raleigh's going to be hitting some more home runs next year too.
I think so. Usually it's back-to-back years that people have great years. Think about Griffey, who set the Mariners mark for home runs. He did it in back-to-back years. There's players like that do that. But I have to say, I mean, if you disagree, tell me. But as far as especially active players right now, Cal is the face of Seattle sports at the moment.
Yes.
I don't think there's an argument. And that's saying a lot given how many great players and coaches and everything else that we have here right now. Truly remarkable. I always say about, in 2022, I did the first story with him after he was called back up. He was sent down for not playing well at the beginning of 2022. And then, of course, the catcher at the time, Tom Murphy, gets injured out for the year. Cal steps up. The rest is history, especially that fateful night, September 30th of 2022. And it's been full steam ahead since then. So, and he's a great dude, too. He's always doing so much in the community, going to visit hospitals and stuff. So hard not to root for Cal Raleigh. And it's been special. Just the presence of being at the ballpark when he's taking an at-bat.
Yeah, he's eclipsed Julio, and he has played this right, and he's leaned into the dumper stuff. He's the endorsement deals and all of that. And I think I mentioned it on this show. I knew he had hit another level down in Las Vegas when I overhear two women at a bar at midnight talking about the home run derby. And you see that guy, the Big Dumper is his nickname. I'm like, okay, if these two random women are talking about him after that home run derby, he's hit another level as well. And I think he is the most recognizable Mariner right now on a national level.
Absolutely. So what do you like?
What do I like? I don't know if you've seen this. If you walk down the street here from the KOMO News World headquarters, Memorial Stadium is finally coming down.
Yeah, I saw that.
The wrecking ball has been out. We've posted the images on our website, KOMOnews.com. You can see that after all of these decades of talking about putting a new stadium at Seattle Center, it is finally happening. That old concrete is coming down. That is now an active workspace with the idea that it will be done by 2027.
It's funny when you said right down the street from KOMO, I thought you were referring to those Kraken logos that are painted on the monorail. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
But yes, Memorial Stadium probably a little more exciting, as cool as those logos are. And again, we've talked about it on the show. It's going to be interesting to see the events, the teams that hold their events and venues there. I kind of said events twice there, but you get what I'm saying. The cool events that'll be there, the teams that'll be able to hold their games there potentially. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Well, what don't you like?
Well, it's, I like to rant sometimes, and this is not one of those days. In fact, this isn't even something to be mad about or upset about. I'm just nervous, Chris. I really like this Seattle Storm team, and I know they've had their ups and downs. Look at that, producer Bill with a thunderstorm on demand. I didn't even know we had that effect.
We've got a new effect.
Well, can we have like a storm in the storm and then we rant or something? But here's the thing. I really like this team. I love its potential. And I think they're going to make a run in the playoffs. I think you see that lineup, you see its potential. My concern is beyond this season. The contracts, Skylar, Neka, Gabby, Brittany Sykes, of course, who they just traded for partially because of the contract, all up at the end of the year.
Yeah. And
I do have faith that they will keep most of those players. It'd be great if they kept them all, but it's not a bad thing yet. I just like the potential of this team, and I think they could be very good in the current setup for years to come. And I'm like, well, gosh, can they keep this thing together? And so it's not a bad thing. I just don't like that. I'm already anxious about it.
Yeah.
If you want to say what you don't
and
like.
They've been streaky.
And I think they're going to be on a nice, obviously, moving forward into the playoffs, I think they'll get it rolling again from the standpoint, okay, you inserted Brittany Sykes into the lineup. Even if she fits this team like a glove, it's going to take some time to acclimate. And I think you're starting to see that, but it makes me bullish on what we'll see in the playoffs from this team. And so I think it's a good foundation both for the end of this year and beyond if they can keep it together beyond this season.
Well, I'll tell you what I don't like, and this is where it gets a little wordy. One of the things we like to talk about on this show is NIL and the changes at the University of Washington and Washington State University. So there's been news here in the last week from the U.S. Senate, from the House of Representatives. There's concern about the SCORE Act and how this would potentially impact the conference system. Now, this is something that there is bipartisan as far as the state of Washington is concerned, support with Michael Baumgartner, the representative out of Spokane, Republican, and Senator Maria Cantwell. They've both written letters to their colleagues here, trying to get them not to approve the SCORE Act which according to Cantwell is expected to be considered for a vote next month. And if passed, the legislation would incentivize a Power 2 conference system that will create inequities for other conferences and leave behind small to mid-sized schools. Baumgartner is a Coug. That's why he's involved in all of this and is concerned. Cantwell has been a supporter of all the state schools, including Gonzaga as a private school. She's a big Gonzaga basketball fan. She says, as currently drafted, the SCORE Act will repeal the 22% revenue sharing cap in the House settlement that we have talked about on this show. And while the SCORE Act proponents say it codifies the revenue sharing structure of the House versus NCAA settlement, the legislation actually strikes the cap and will cause runaway spending. In 2023, she writes, the average FBS athletic department had a $20 million deficit. Even with the revenue share cap and the House settlement, these schools will face a $40 million deficit. She is arguing that we do not need a federal law that would entrench the advantages the biggest conferences already have and exacerbate the significant disparities in athletic revenues for universities, especially revenues from television rights. She argues Pac-12 schools that were previously part of a Power 5 conference will now reportedly receive nearly 63% less revenue from television rights than they did before conference realignment. Schools in the ACC will now get paid based on their viewership ratings for football and men's basketball, hurting schools like Wake Forest, which has fewer viewers in its football games than other ACC schools. Bottom line, not only is Cantwell arguing this, Baumgartner is arguing this, suggesting that this House Act, which was expected, or House settlement, which was expected to put people on a similar playing field, would be thrown out and mess everything up again, causing further woes for the University of Washington, Washington State University.
Well, yeah, and it's, gosh, this is always the thing in college sports, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, certainly, especially the last 5 years or so. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, because for every statement like that from people in a state like Washington, you bet there's going to be senators in, say, Alabama and Georgia that are going to say, oh, the SCORE Act is the best thing since sliced bread. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. I think one thing is indisputable, and I know you agree. Just give me the college football that we saw like 10 years ago.
Yes.
Like, come on.
Yes.
Like, was it really that broke? No, of course not.
No, I mean, kids need to be paid at a certain point.
Of course, yes.
This is getting the disparities are becoming greater in a shorter amount of time, just with NIL and how much kids are getting paid by going to one school versus another.
Yeah, and that's important to point out that NIL needed to happen. When I say bring me back to 10 years ago, I just mean like you had conferences that made sense, games that made sense. Not like, oh gosh, like half the schools aren't going to matter potentially. You know what I'm saying? There's been some good like NIL and things like that, but I feel like every time college athletics does something good, they do about 3 things to make it more difficult.
Yeah. So that is going to be something we'll continue to talk about as college football season now officially underway. One thing though that I wanted to bring it down a notch. Okay. Here on Inside the Arena. Talk about the Supersonic Minute. We normally use an air horn. We'll use it here, but there was a Supersonic who was in the news here in the last week. We really haven't talked about it on this show, and I'm talking about Shawn Kemp, who I think if anybody has followed ESPN.com, it was the top story on ESPN.com, the fact that he was wrapping up a 2-year-long case involving him firing a gun. He had gone to the Tacoma Mall to retrieve stolen items from a couple of people and track them to the Tacoma Mall. And there was a lot of questions about what Shawn was doing in that parking lot, whether he should have done what he did. He was charged. Eventually, he ended up settling the case with the prosecutors, and that led to a sentencing last week where he was facing jail time. The judge ultimately decided not to give him jail time and put him on court monitoring at home for 30 days, and also other terms, basically don't get in trouble again. And Shawn has not been in trouble. And I think he also had a tremendous show of support from his family, including his kids. And that's what I wanted to read here. This is one of the letters that was submitted to the court. And I think when you read through it, you understand why the judge made the decision that he did. And it's a letter from Bella Kemp, Shawn's daughter. And I'm just going to read it in full because I think it adds some context to the story. It happened on a Friday. People didn't really get to hear some of this feedback. She wrote the judge, "My name is Bella Jade Kemp, and I am the daughter of Shawn Travis Kemp. The purpose of this letter is to help the court see who my father is at his core. For For 27 years, I have existed in silence, but today I feel it's important for you to know that my father is so much more than his career. My father was prematurely thrust into a world full of fame, wealth, and expectations, leaving him to navigate the complexities of adulthood on his own. Almost overnight, he became a provider and a leader, bearing the weight of supporting his family and friends in countless ways. This responsibility instilled in him the belief that he had to face life's challenges alone. My father deserved the childhood that he provided me, the childhood he never had, a nurturing environment filled with love, safety, and joy, a home free from shame and trauma. I often wonder if he had received the same care he gave me, would it have made a difference? I believe it would have. In another world, perhaps I do not exist, but my father would have had the chance not just to survive, but to truly live. For many years, my father was surrounded by people who said yes simply because of his talent. This blurred the line between friend and foe, making it difficult to distinguish right from wrong. Even today, he sometimes forgets that there are people who love him for who he is, not for what he can offer. Over the last 2 decades, I have witnessed my father's incredible growth. He has rebuilt relationships from the ground up, taking full accountability for his actions. He has turned past mistakes into lessons, using them to shape better outcomes. This growth has strengthened his relationships, improved his mental and physical health, and driven his personal business ventures to success. Today, my father is surrounded by people who offer genuine love and support. They are not just yes men, they are individuals who are unafraid to challenge him, to ask difficult questions, and to hold him accountable. They offer guidance and encourage him to continue moving forward in a positive direction. Growth is a lifelong journey which has no end date. I believe we are all products of our environment, and we are capable of making mistakes. The difference lies in what comes next. Some people learn and change while others are not ready. My father has chosen to grow. Before sentencing is determined, I hope you'll take into account the man, father, and human he is today. The progress he has made is nothing short of a miracle. I fear that incarceration would not only stall his growth, it would set him back. You cannot heal in the same type of environment that once broke you. I am proud to be Bella Kemp, but more than that, I am proud to be my father's daughter.
Well,
so she wrote that letter to the judge. The judge obviously agreed. A couple of other Shawn's kids also wrote letters to the judge. And I think the judge admonished, our Jeremy Harris was in the courtroom, admonished the prosecutors and even asked why they were bringing the case, given that a couple of the guys that were involved that allegedly with Shawn had significant criminal backgrounds, and even one of them was accused of going to try and find Shawn at a later date and shot at a man he thought was Shawn Kemp in another incident. So a lot came out in that courtroom, and a lot of these letters, I think the show of support definitely persuaded the judge to issue the sentence that he did.
Yeah, and it's what Bella wrote in that note is something you know, and I know. Not for as long as you, but I know it is that Shawn's a good guy. He is. People make mistakes, and so and make mistakes in trying situations. So it was really great to hear that letter and certainly see how this played out, and that Shawn gets a chance to atone for that.
And he's already been in the last week. He's already been volunteering with Rise Above and the great work that organization's been doing. So there you go, Shawn Kemp. Yeah. He is penalized, but he will not be serving any jail time. And
before the sentencing, he helped out with a local event at the Kent YMCA, free event for kids going back to school, backpacks and all that. And there was Shawn all day. And he does it every year. It's not like, oh, wait, sentencing's coming. No, he does it every year. And it's special guy when you see somebody do that, still to this day.
Well, switching back to the baseball diamond.
Yeah, no. So Justin Hollander, this is a great conversation. For me personally, I always wondered how many deals do we never hear about?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like that they have conversations about how many, is it just as simple as Chris is the GM of another team? Hey, Chris, can I have this guy? Or is it like months? And it's actually a little bit of both, but I don't want to give too much of it away. Here comes my interview with Justin Hollander, the Mariners GM, right after this.
Luxury has arrived at Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel. The hotel is officially open. Book now for an unforgettable experience. Enjoy sweeping cascade views, a new sports bar, and play your favorite games. Visit snowcasino.com for details. Seattle's closest is now Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel.
So let's talk about the aftermath of the deadline. It's been about just over a week or so. Certainly, even just on the outside, even just a casual fan can see the differences it's made in this club. And again, it's early, but how do you, kind of after the deadline, see those changes and feel about it?
I think the thing that matters most is winning. you want to inject some energy and some belief into your 26-man roster, into your fans, into your coaching staff. But the whole reason to do that is you hope you can turn it into W's on the field. Obviously, we played really well over the last week, and that I think is a sign of both the talent added and the energy that we've injected into the group at a time when I think a long baseball season can wear on some guys that you want to have, sort of the extra time.
And it's certainly the impact of Naylor, Gino, or Ferguson. It's in itself a great thing, but it can have a trickle-down effect too, like you say, the energy or changing the dynamic of the lineup. How does that really play out?
Yeah, I think it does when you add impact players, and I would qualify all three of these guys as impact players. It allows you to have a day where any given player who may have been critical in your ability to score runs or prevent runs on a given day, maybe he has a bad day, but somebody else picks him up because you have more depth. Somebody who used to hit fifth hit sixth or seventh now. Somebody else who pitched in the sixth inning or would have had to pitch the second day in a row, like in Gabe Spire and Caleb Ferguson's case, it hopefully will buy Gabe a little more rest than he's had, because Caleb can go just pitch the inning that Gabe would have otherwise pitched, and that way a fresher Gabe can pitch the next day and hopefully, be as good as he's been for the first half and the second half.
What is it? It's certainly, you guys are always doing what's in the best interest of the team. When you have a flurry of moves like that and a home stretch like this where you're right in the middle of it, I mean, what's the excitement level of that?
Very high. There's not a lot of moments where we can affect things, as a front office group. We can't over the winter. We can't when the games are going on. The most talented people are the players. We just get to sit and watch. But when you feel like you as a front office group, our business ops group, when we can do things to help the product on the field, it's really gratifying to see them play out. When they play out well, you're really excited. And when they don't play out as well, you feel really guilty. Like you didn't do enough to help the players and the coaches on the field. And so seeing tangible value coming from the guys you acquired at the deadline, the way that Nails has played, Gino hit a big homer the other day, what Ferg has done since he came in and been held them scoreless throughout all his outings. Like those are big moments for the team when you're talking about 50 games left.
No question about that. And when you look at the build up to the deadline, I'm sure there's a million things that none of us could even ever fathom, right?
Yeah.
What is that, I guess, home stretch, so to speak? It's got to be something like a marathon, a sprint, all of it in one, right?
That's a great way of saying it, actually, because the deals aren't done until they're actually done, until someone says, okay, we've cleared medicals, and you feel like the number of calls and texts you have to trade. Think about how many trades we make, and then think about how many calls may have to occur they never say yes on the first call. It's months of text messages and phone calls, most of which lead to nowhere. But when one leads to a second call, which leads to a third call, and you get close enough that you think, wow, we've got some momentum here, it's extremely exhilarating when the deal goes through and devastating when it falls apart at the last minute.
What, give or take, number of texts and calls, ballpark it for me, on a call like a Gino trade or whatever it might be?
Just on an individual trade?
Yeah.
During deadline week, probably something like 24 going back and forth over, I actually jokingly sent someone my call log for July 30th, and it was a busy day. Like I was on the phone more than I was not on the phone, just like talking to different teams about different ideas all day on the 30th and to some degree on the 31st as well, where it was just, there's a lot of volume because you don't want to miss an opportunity to help the team get better, especially when we've played the way we have and you have a chance to push for the playoffs.
And from the standpoint of any given deal, there can be twists and turns. How much can that really go either way? Like, oh, we think we've got a deal. Oh, they want this. And how much does that go back and forth?
You try and read the tea leaves a little bit, and sometimes you overread them and think, wow, there's momentum here. And then your hopes are dashed immediately after they call you back and say, no, we're not doing that. So, you ride the wave of emotions, and while you're doing that, you tend to ride the wave of the emotions of how the team is playing too. So you have a bad night, and it's like, oh man, feels like we'll never win a game again. And then you have a great night, and it's like, we're never going to lose. So it's
like Mariners Twitter.
It is, which is why it's probably not healthy to be on social media for us. But no, you can ride the wave of emotions. But I think, if you start out focused with these are the areas we want to improve, and you're relentless, and you have complete organizational buy-in that this is something that we want to focus on over the next week or 2 weeks or whatever, you can get a lot done. And I think that this year's an example of that.
Absolutely. We've noticed over the years there's been certain teams maybe you work with more. Is that built on Arizona, for example? We've seen several deals.
Yep.
Like knowing how they operate, knowing that maybe they operate in a way does that have something to do with it?
I think relationships do help a lot. I think Jerry has a great relationship with Mike Hazen. I have a great relationship with their assistant GM, Ami El-Sadeh. We're all kind of straight shooters. We'll tell you what we're willing to do. They'll tell us what they're willing to do. And just the volume of deals we've done, we've built up like a fair amount of track record with them. That being said, you can get deals done with a lot of people. We hadn't done a lot of deals with the Pirates, for instance, and that kind of came together all in one day on Caleb. So, there's 30 teams. That means you only have 29 to deal from. So if you don't have a great relationship with somebody, you need to figure out a way to have a great relationship with somebody so they don't make the trade with somebody else instead of with you.
No, and that's the thing too. It's like there's so many different teams probably calling and that sort of thing. Gosh, how do you keep it all straight, right?
We have a log in our database, so you log every conversation that you have. That way you remember, or you're not forced to remember, hey, they like this prospect a year ago, or they've had interest in this player, or they said they would talk about this player but not that player. It's just too much to keep track of off the top of your head. So we log every conversation all year long with any clubs, and just make sure that we're following every lead, especially as you get close to the deadline.
Now, certainly with the moves you made, obviously the prospects you depart ways with, they're guys you've invested in.
Oh, for sure.
But you still have a lot of guys here. So how do you balance, you've invested time in the people, the player, and certainly it's tough to move on from any player. But at the same time, you've kept a lot of those guys in the system too.
Yeah, you're definitely emotionally invested in every prospect that you have. And in some ways, you've seen the best version of them. If a pitcher has ever thrown the best pitch of his life in professional baseball and he's your pitcher, you've seen it. And so is he going to be able to repeat that over and over again? What are we giving up? And I think that the way you balance that is not just focusing on what you're giving up, you focus on what you're getting and how it can impact the product on the major league field, because that's what we're here to service ultimately, is our fans at the major league level, our major league team, our community and the Pacific Northwest, and make sure that you're doing right by them. And it's obviously a balance between the present and the future. You want your team to tell you what is the right thing to do, and this team, I think, told us over the course of the season that it was talented enough to make a big run. So that's why we acted the way we did.
And one thing that on the deadline day, Jerry said, when you guys traded Gino, he cried telling him. And then when you guys acquired him, he cried.
Yeah.
Can you take me through some of that emotion? I mean, these become family members, right?
Yeah, they do. And, it's hard. I shared this story with the Seattle Times. My son's favorite player is now again Gino. It was Gino when we traded Gino, and I had to tell him originally when we were trading Gino, and that was, that's a hard conversation to have with, it's not just a nameless face that you're telling we traded away your favorite player. It's literally your son that you're doing that, and those are hard conversations. It's part of the job, and I won some points at home on the 30th by telling him we got Gino again, and those are, we get attached to these people. They all make a huge difference in our lives. The relationships that we have with all of them, and so when you can cultivate those relationships and then you get to reunite, it's really, really fun. We had family day on Sunday on the field, and to see Gino and his family reintegrate with our group so seamlessly, because it was almost all the same people, was a really cool thing for his family, for a lot of our players and their families, to just be reunited with someone who has the respect of everyone in our clubhouse.
How much do you love this job?
It's a great job. Everybody asked about what your favorite part is, and it's everything. It is everything, and I get to live vicariously through our community and watch the team go out and hopefully do big things this year.
Yeah, we're all hoping for that. You almost picture this in your room. You make a big trade or something, you and Jerry, what is it, like a high five? Is it more, the job's done? What's the emotion like?
No, there's high fives for sure. It's hard to make trades. It's really hard. Whether you think it's a good trade and other people think it's a bad trade, or vice versa, it's really hard to do, especially in today's game, where I think it's more driven by info and less driven by gut and off the cuff. It's hard to line up with other teams on the exact value, and usually someone has to compromise in one way or the other. So when we make a deal, we're excited about it. We definitely, it's handshakes, it's high fives, and it's please let this go well for us.
Yeah. Last thing I'll ask you, and this is actually aside from that, we just this weekend with Ichiro.
Yeah.
You say you love your job, right? It doesn't get much better than seeing somebody like that who's become an icon in the sport and everything like that, right?
Yeah, it is. We're truly lucky to have been around Ichiro, both as a player and now as a member of our organization. He's one of the most unique players to have ever played. He's probably the most dedicated player that I've ever played. The work he puts in, the care, the passion that he has for baseball is second to none. So to be able to have this weekend to celebrate him in front of the city that I know he loves and cares about is going to be really, really cool.
Justin Hollander,
thanks for having me.
Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Well, again, thank you to Justin Hollander. And what I said at the top of the show, this was done August 8th. It was shortly after the trade deadline. It was actually before the Ichiro celebration. So when you hear Justin say, this past week, it's actually referring to that hot streak right after the trade deadline. But the points remain from the standpoint of what this team has done since the deadline, how they've completely changed the complexion of the lineup. and how I think that Justin Hollander and Jerry DiPoto, they do a lot of things that people don't see, even people that are plugged in with the team don't see. And so it was important to hear that conversation, and we always appreciate how forthcoming Justin Hollander is. Every time we get to talk, it's a treat. I hope to catch up with him again in this offseason.
Yeah, the trades they don't make, sometimes you wonder what that would do.
Yeah, and I love when he said, he's like, you're working and you hear that a team's receptive to it, and you get so excited, and then they call you back 10 minutes later and say, actually, no. And then you're so sad about the roller coaster of emotions. And my personal favorite, because shout out to a photographer at KOMO, Paul Kenke, he said, he was looking at Jerry DiPoto one day, and he said, I wonder if Jerry watches Moneyball and says, that's me. And Moneyball just got 2 references in this podcast.
Yeah.
And he says, I wonder if Moneyball, and says, that's me. And I asked Justin, I'm like, do you guys celebrate like Brad Pitt and Jonah Hill with the high five? He's like, oh yeah, big trade. He got a high five. Yeah, I love it. It was a really cool conversation. We appreciate Justin's time.
You know who we haven't traded?
Who haven't we traded? David Lee. Oh, yeah, got it. Yes. Take us out, David.
You've been listening to Inside the Arena with Niko and Chris. Please subscribe on your favorite platform. Until next time.
Inside the Arena was presented by Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel, Seattle's closest sports book.